Hello, my name is Sandra and welcome back to my channel. On this channel, we talk everything literature and writing. So today we have an exciting book haul. It's a big book haul. There are 30 books and it's very location specific. It's set in one place and one place only. And it's a book haul on Chinese literature and Chinese historical nonfiction as well as socio-political nonfiction. So as you guys guessed it, the reason why this haul is happening is because one of my books is going to be set partially in China. So I just love researching about places that I'm writing about, or I love researching like the history, and I love also consuming, obviously respectfully, the literature by actual Chinese people. And even though if they write something that's like set in America or Canada or overseas with like Chinese heritage or Chinese background, right? So I have about 10 Chinese literature fiction books, and I think I have 20 Chinese nonfiction books. I also want to put a quick disclaimer that a lot of the nonfiction books are written by the white people, which is fine, you know, as long as it's done respectfully. So I have been going through the Goodreads reviews and mostly reading ones from actual Chinese people. So I think a few of these books are to be read with like a critical lens. Obviously, I cannot read Chinese Mandarin or any of the other dialects because I'm not a Chinese speaker, but I am, however, really interested in learning. So I won't be learning how to write and speak and read Chinese this year, but hopefully in the next 1 or 2 years. But before that, I am going to be start working on my next project. So yeah, this is why I wanted to give that quick disclaimer. You know, always do your own research, always read the reviews from people that actually know what they're talking about. And I also want to say there is going to be a later video at some point where I'm going to read more of the history background of China, because those books are a bit pricier. So I'm either going to find a copy online or I'm going to save up and buy those copies at some point to read. So yeah, this is just like a preliminary research thing for me because I just love that. Additionally, I find China to be very fascinating. I have very limited knowledge of Chinese culture and Chinese literature, so I do want to remedy that. I do want to go to China at some point in my life as well. I've been slowly just very fascinated by everything related to China, as you can tell, from past, present, future as well, maybe. So this is, you know, just a quick haul to show you guys what I'm going to be reading in the next few months to a few years, because some of these books are really big and really dense. So I do want to give my time and attention to them. So you guys have seen me do this a few times on this channel for different topics that I'm interested in. So we've had art crime, art history, we've had French Riviera, dark academia, post-apocalyptic, pandemic. So it always depends on the book that I'm writing. Although I'm going to be starting slowly to read these books, I'm not going to be writing my book that is partially set in China yet, because I obviously want to do the research and I obviously want to finish other books and other research that I'm doing right now. So that's a lot of preamble. Let's just get right into it. I think I'm going to start with the fiction books first, because fiction requires a little bit more of a summary, and then for the nonfiction, all the titles are pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go through them at length. I'm going to list everything down below so you can go and do your own research, read about the book in greater details, and see what other people are saying. So without further ado, let's start. The first book is a book that I've been meaning to read for many years, and it was the Man Booker Prize of 2016, so I'm about a decade late. It's Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeleine Tien, and I'm sure many of you have heard of this book or have read this book before. So it says, Vancouver in 1990, 10-year-old Mary and her mother invite a guest into their home. Ming, a young woman who has fled China in the aftermath of the Tiananmen massacre. Gradually, as Ming befriends Marie, she relates the history of her family from the crowded tea houses during Mao's ascent to the creative ferment inside the Shanghai Conservatory of Music in the 1960s to the streets of Beijing during the 1989 demonstrations, With gorgeous and powerful prose, Tian immerses us in the whirling lives of three musicians who traverse these times. As the three struggle to remain loyal to one another and to the music that defines them, the relentless tide of the Cultural Revolution forces them to reimagine their bonds and their fates with unexpected and lasting consequences. This just sounds like a great book. It's also set in Vancouver, which I find that fascinating. I will say my pronunciation wasn't that great, so please feel free to correct me. I will not take offense to that, especially if you're a Chinese speaker. So although this is the first book on this list, it's also probably going to be the first book that I read next. Then we have two books by Lisa C. I've actually been reading another book by Lisa C, and I had started it and I filmed it on a vlog, but I literally stopped reading it and I just got distracted with my life. I need to finish that book, but I think that one has to do with Japan, and it's the island of Sea Woman. So I think before starting these two, I'm going to read that one just because I'm already familiar with her writing style and I really love that book. So I'm going to reread that book and finish it before picking up any new books by her. So yeah, I heard great things about Lisa C's writing, and she typically focuses on China. Shanghai Girls is obviously about 1937 Shanghai. It's the Paris of Asia. 21-year-old Pearl Chin and her younger sister May are having the time of their lives. Both are beautiful, modern, and carefree until the day their father tells them that he has gambled away their wealth and that to repay his debts, he must sell the girls as wives to suitors who have traveled from Los Angeles to find Chinese brides. As Japanese bombs fall on their beloved city, Pearl and May set out on the journey of a lifetime from the Chinese countryside to the shores of America. Though inseparable best friends, the sisters also harbor petty jealousies and rivalries. Along the way, they make terrible sacrifices, face impossible choices, and confront a devastating, life-changing secret. But through it all, the two heroines of this astounding new novel hold fast to who they are. Shanghai Girls. So yeah, that's this one. And then the next one is Lady Tan's Circle of Women. I think this is her newest release, if I'm correct. It says, according to Confucius, an educated woman is a worthless woman, but Tan Yungjian, born into an elite family haunted by death, separations, and loneliness, is being raised by her grandparents to be of use. From a young age, Yungjian learns the pillars of Chinese medicine from her grandmother and how to treat women's illnesses alongside a young midwife in training. The two girls find fast friendship and a mutual purpose and vow to be forever friends. But when Yungjian is sent into an arranged marriage, her mother-in-law forbids her from seeing Mei Ling and from treating the women and girls in the household. She is to act like a proper wife. Yunjian feels otherwise and spends her life trying to both please her family and break free of the constraints they impose upon her. Once again, this sounds amazing and it's focused on female friendship, so I cannot wait to read this. The next book is a collection of short stories by Yuyun Lee, and it's Wednesday's Child. So this is basically a grieving mother makes a spreadsheet of everyone she's lost. Elsewhere, a professor develops a troubled intimacy with her hairdresser, and every year a restless woman receives an email from a strange man twice her age and several states away. In the stories of Wednesday's Child, people strive for an ordinary existence until doing so becomes unsustainable, until the surface cracks and the grand mysterious forces, death, violence, estrangements come to light. Even before such moments, everyday life is studded with indelible details: a filch jar of honey, a mound of wounded ants, a photograph kept hidden for many years until it must be seen. Although this probably doesn't focus on China at all, it is by a Chinese author, so I figured I would pick this one up as well. Then I have Days of Distraction by Alexandra Chang. I'm interested in reading this novel because it has to do with a grad student, and it says here, the plan is to leave. As for how, when, to, where, and even why, she doesn't know yet. So begins a journey for the 24-year-old narrator of Days of Distraction. As a staff writer at a prestigious tech publication, she reports on the achievements of smug Silicon Valley billionaires and startup bros, while her own request for a raise gets bumped from manager to manager. When her longtime boyfriend Jay decides to move to a quiet upstate New York town for grad school, she sees an excuse to cut and run. Moving is meant to be a grand gesture of her commitment to Jay and a way to reshape her sense of self, but in the process she finds herself facing misgivings about her role in an interracial relationship. Captivated by the stories of her ancestors and other Asian Americans in history, she must confront a question at the core of her identity. How do you exist in a society that does not notice or understand you? Equal parts tender and humorous and told in sparse but powerful prose, Days of Distraction is an offbeat coming of adulthood tale, a touching family story, and a razor-sharp appraisal of our times. Not much more to say, but I've only heard great things from the people I follow online about this book. Then I obviously had to pick up this classic because I'm surprised I didn't have it on my shelf, and I really love this new, I think this is a new cover that they made. It's the Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. So I'm just going to read you the description quickly. It says, in 1949, 4 Chinese women drawn together by the shadow of their past began meeting in San Francisco to play mahjong, invest in stocks, eat dim sum, and say stories. They call their gathering the Joy Luck Club. Nearly 40 years later, one of the members has died and her daughter has come to take her place, only to learn of her mother's lifelong wish and a tragic way in which it has come true. The revelation of the secret unleashes an urgent need among the women to reach back and remember. In this extraordinary first work of fiction, Amy Tan writes about what is lost over the years between generations among friends and what is saved. So I just know that this is going to be another female friendship and women saga that I'm going to love. The next one is by a newer author, and it's A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang, and it says her beauty hides a deadly purpose, and this cover is stunning. There is painted edges, absolutely beautiful. So let me just read you the blurb. It says, Yishi's beauty is seen as a blessing to the villagers of Yu, convinced that the best fate for a girl is to marry well and support her family. When Yishi draws the attention of the famous young military advisor Fan Li, he presents her with a rare opportunity to use her beauty as a weapon, one that could topple the rival neighboring kingdom of Wu, improve the lives of her people, and avenge her sister's murder. All she has to do is infiltrate the enemy palace as a spy, seduce their immoral king, and weaken them from within. Trained by Fan Li in everything from classical instruments to concealing emotion, Yishi hones her beauty into the perfect blade. But she knows Fan Li can see through every deception she masters, the attraction between them burning away any falsehoods. Once inside the enemy palace, Yishi finds herself under the hungry gaze of the king's advisors, while the king himself shows her great affection. Despite his gentleness, a brutality lurks, and Yishi knows she can never let her guard down. But the higher Yishi climbs in the Wu court, the farther she and Fan Li have to fall. And if she is unmasked as a traitor, she will bring both kingdoms down. This just sounds so good, like a type of historical fiction novel. And I know this author has other books that are more like YA based and also set in China. So if I love this book, I'm going to read her backlist as well. So the next book is actually a book that I've been dying to read and that I have had on my wish list. And it's The Fox Wife by Yangji Chu. And I'm going to read you the blurb. It says here, Manchuria, 1908. In the last years of the dying Qing Empire, a courtesan is found frozen in a doorway. Her death is clouded by rumors of foxes, which are believed to lure people by transforming themselves into beautiful women and handsome men. Bao, a detective with an uncanny ability to sniff out the truth, is hired to uncover the dead woman's identity. Since childhood, Bao has been intrigued by the fox gods, yet they remain tantalizing out of reach until perhaps now. Meanwhile, a family who owns a famous Chinese medicine shop can cure ailments but can't escape the curse that afflicts them. Their eldest sons die before their 24th birthdays. When a disreputedly winsome servant named Snow enters their household, the family's luck seems to change, or does it? Snow is a creature of many secrets, but most of all, she's a mother seeking vengeance for her lost child. Hunting a murderer, she will follow the trail from northern China to Japan, while Bao follows doggedly behind. Navigating the myths and misconceptions of fox spirits, both Snow and Bao will encounter old friends and new foes, even as more deaths occur. This just sounds so good, but I think I'm going to read this one now instead of Do Not Say We Have Nothing, because it is kind of focused on snow, and although it's not warm yet in Canada, I mean, our spring has been quite chilly, I would say. If I wait any longer, it's going to start being summertime, so either I read this soon now or I'm going to leave it for next year. And then finally, I have this novel. It's called China by Edward Rutherford, and he is not a Chinese person, right? He has written other novels that are set in specific places, so if I do like this, I will pick up his other novel. He has written a novel on Paris and a novel on New York, and as you guys know, I love Paris and the French Riviera, so I might pick that one up next if I like this one. I've read great reviews on this one, and I've read not so great reviews on this one, so it's a bit of a mix. So here it says, Edward Rutherford has enthralled millions of people with his grand, sweeping historical sagas that tell the story of an iconic place over multiple generations. Now in China, the novel Rutherford takes readers into the rich and fascinating milieu of the Middle Kingdom, dramatizing the epoch when the colonial greed of Western powers shattered the stability of the 2,000-year-old empire, and the Chinese learned to fight back in ways that echo down to this day. The story begins in 1839 at the dawn of the First Opium War. An English merchant arrives in the restricted port of Canton, seeking to make his fortune trading opium, but the tide of addiction is decimating the Chinese population. A young scholar accompanies his Mandarin master on a mission from the emperor to shut down the trade. Thus begins an epic tale chronicling China's conflict to regain its ancient land and culture from the domination of the Western powers, from the Opium Wars to the Taiping Revolt, the British burning of the Summer Palace, the Boxer Rebellion, and the long rule of the Dragon Empress, culminating in the Revolution of 1911, when modern China began to form. We meet a young village wife struggling with the rigid traditions of her people, Manchu empresses and warriors, the powerful eunuchs of the Forbidden City, rapacious English soldiers and earnest missionaries, savvy Chinese pirates and sage philosophers, artists, concubines, scoundrels, and heroes. Rutherford chronicles the rising and falling fortunes of members of Chinese, British, and American families as they negotiate the tides of history. So yeah, that's a mouthful, but I think this surveys quite a period of China and the involvement of the British in the Opium Wars. I do have non-fiction books that we're going to see next that do talk about the Opium War. The thing about China is that it has such a long and rich history that at some point I'm gonna have to go through all these books to establish a timeline to see which non-fiction book I should start with first and work my way through, and then with the fiction books I'm going to add to that timeline, if that makes sense. So like I said, I have these preliminary books, but there are actual Chinese literature books and Chinese history books, you know, the ones that were written in Chinese that have been translated later on in the last whatever century in English that I want to buy. Those are just a bit more expensive, so I might buy like one a month, every 2 months, read it, and then at the end come back with my thoughts, whereas this one is just a book haul from the books that I found online for a good price right now. So yeah, now we're gonna go through the non-fiction books, and like I said, I'm just gonna be reading the title because the titles are pretty self-explanatory, and that's what got me to pick up the book. And obviously I went and checked all the Goodreads and all the description of these books before buying them. First book I have here is Kingdom of Characters, The Language Revolution That Made China Modern by Jing Tsu. Then I have Great State, China and the World by Timothy Brook. I have Age of Ambition. This one I read really good reviews of. It's Chasing Fortune, Truth and Fate in the New China by Evan Osnells. And this one I believe has been written in the last decade. Then I have Red Roulette, An Insider Story of Wealth, Power, Corruption and Vengeance in Today's China by Desmond Shum. This one I heard really great things about, and it's also recommended by Margaret Atwood, which you guys know I love Margaret Atwood. It's The World Turned Upside Down, A History of the Chinese Cultural Revolution by Yang Jishan. And this one is a long book. I mean, it's 600 pages. It looks bigger than it actually is. This one is the controversial one, and I think rightly so. It's On China by Henry Kissinger. It says, in the sweeping and insightful history, Henry Kissinger turns for the first time at book length to a country that he has known intimately for decades and whose modern relations with the West he helped shape. On China illuminates the inner workings of Chinese diplomacy during such pivotal events as the initial encounters between China and modern European powers, the formation and breakdown of the Sino-Soviet alliance, the Korean War, and Richard Nixon's historic trip to Beijing, with a final chapter on the emerging superpowers' 21st century role. On China provides an intimate historical perspective on China foreign affairs from one of the premier statesmen of the 20th century. Like I said, do your own research, and I'm going to be reading this with a removed critical eye, you know, obviously putting at the forefront more of the Chinese nonfiction, Chinese historical fiction from actual Chinese authors, right? Like I said, I will be consulting other sources, not just an American politician source on China, obviously, because it's gonna be through his lens and his skewed view. So yeah, that's the other one. Then I have this book, which is highly rated, and I believe it's a memoir. It's Wild Swans, The $3 of China by Jung Chan. This one, like I said, online everyone seems to love and rave about this book. Every time I go and look at which book I should read, this one comes up a lot of time. So let me just read you the back blurb quickly. Blending the intimacy of memoir and the panoramic sweep of eyewitness history, Wild Swans has become a best-selling classic in more than 30 languages with 13 million copies sold. The story of 3 generations in 20th century China. It is an engrossing record of Mao's impact on China, an unusual window on the female experience in the modern world, and an inspiring tale of courage and love. So yeah, I'm going to read probably this one first on the non-fiction front, but we'll see. Then I have The Last Kings of Shanghai, The Rival Jewish Dynasties That Helped Create Modern China by Jonathan Kaufman. Then I have Bullets and Opium, Real Life Stories of China After Tiananmen Square Massacre by Liu Yu, I believe that's how it's pronounced. This I will be reading in concordance with the Do Not Say We Have Nothing, because it's part of the same, historical event. So definitely going to read that together. So like I said, a lot of the literature is complementary, but I do still want to create a loose timeline from the dynasties to modern China to modern China, as in like the last 5 years or like since the pandemic. I do think there might be 1 or 2 books from that time, like this next one here, The Great Wall Along the Borders of History from China to Mexico. This one is a newer book, obviously, with the Trump elections and stuff, and this one is by Ian Vollner. Then I also have The Party, The Secret World of China's Communist Rulers by Richard McGregor, and obviously you have Mao and other people in here. And then we have this one, which also I've read really good reviews, 1421, The Year China Discovered America by Gavin Menzies, and I've also read not so great reviews. So obviously, again, I just think that I'm going to use this as like a general source, and there are images in here, which is great as well. So it says, on March 8, 1421, the largest fleet the world had ever seen set sail from China to proceed all the way to the ends of the earth to collect tribute from the barbarians beyond the seas. That's in quotation, by the way. When the fleet returned home in October 1423, so that's about almost 2 years later, the emperor had fallen, leaving China in political and economic chaos. The great ships were left to rot at their moorings, and the records of their journeys were destroyed. Lost in the long self-imposed isolation that followed was the knowledge that Chinese ships had reached America 70 years before Columbus and had circumnavigated the globe a century before Magellan, and they colonized America before the Europeans, transplanting the principal economic crops that have since fed and clothed the world. So yeah, another big one, another history focused one as well. Then I have this one, When a Billion Chinese Jump, How China Will Save Mankind or Destroy It by Jonathan Watts. Again, I've read some really good reviews on this one, and this one is a more modern type book as well. We have this one, The New China Playbook, Beyond Socialism and Capitalism by Yu Jin. This one also, great reviews I've seen on this one. And then I have this one, The Book of Secrets, A Personal History of Betrayal in Red China by Jiran. I think this author has other books that are more popular and famous, and again, everything is set in a specific time frame. So this one's about like the Chinese Communist Party, as you know, with the Red China. And yeah, if I like this one, I'm definitely gonna pick up her other books. Now this one I accidentally stumbled on, and I am so intrigued by it because one thing about me, as you guys know, I love movies and cinema and the whole Hollywood scene, obviously. And this one has to do with both, and it's The Red Carpet, Hollywood, China, and the Global Battle for Cultural Supremacy by Eric Schwartz. And this one is just like a book just for me because I really love the history of film and movies, and it's something that I have not researched yet, but I have been collecting books about the history of film and filmmaking. So at some point when I write that novel that I want to write about that, I will come back and talk about that. So you guys know I'm working on like 10 separate, topics that I will slowly gather information. We also had recently on this channel, I had the romantic poets and the Mary Shelley and Mary Wollstonecraft, her mother. So I'm still working on that video that I'm going to make eventually when I finish doing a little bit more readings by Mary Shelley. But yeah, just letting you guys know, like, that's how my brain works as a writer and a reader. Yes, I consume things for fun and because they're topical and they're new releases and whatever, but I also do have like secret like passages in my brain where I'm like collecting stuff for certain novels that I want to write. So I normally get the idea first, and then there's like the location, the history, and like characters or authors that are similar to what I'm writing, basically. So yeah, this is from trade to technology to military might. Competition between the United States and China dominates their foreign policy landscape, but this battle for global influence is also playing out in a strange and unexpected arena, the movies. So yeah, I'm definitely going to read this at a much later point, but I'm so excited for this one, which, I would actually want to read this one next, but because my brain has to operate with which project that I'm working on first, this is probably going to be one of the last ones that I'm reading. Okay, I have 2 more books, and they're both in modern day. So we have A Force So Swift, Mao Truman and the Birth of Modern China, 1949, by Kevin Pereno. And then we also have Surveillance State, Inside China's Quest to Launch a New Era of Social Control, by Josh Chin and Lisa Lin. So those were all the non-fiction China books. Yeah, my throat hurts a little bit. But yeah, we made it through. These are the 30 books. I think it's about 30 books. But those were the 30 books that are either set in China or are Chinese literature that I really want to read next. I have a few other ones on my shelf that I need to find because I can't find anything on my shelves anymore. Like I said, there are old Chinese literature that I really do want to read, like some of the greatest, best Chinese books of all time. And I'm going to go through that list quickly. There are 10 of them. I'm just going to say them and then add them at the bottom after these books because I have not yet bought any of these books. So I'm going to make my way slowly through them because they're a bit on the pricier side, like, $50 per book. So the first one we have is Romance of the Three Kingdoms by Luo Gunzhong. Then we have Water Margin by Shi Nai-an, I think. Journey to the West by Wu Chengyan. Then we have Plum in the Golden Vase by Lanling Xiaozhou Shang. I think that's how you say that. Then we have Dream of the Red Chamber by Qiao Yujiang. We have Madman's Diary by Lu Jun. We have Family by Ba Jing. We have Rickshaw Boy or Camel Jiangjing by Luo Shi. We have Red Sorghum by Mo Yan. We have To Live by Yu Yu Hua. So these are the 10 books that were recommended. I have the link to the video that I watched that was recommending these books. So I'll add that at the end as well. So yeah, those were the books that I want to read. These are the 30 books and plus the 10 books that I'm going to slowly collect. And then I have a few other books that I added to my wish list. So if ever you guys wanted to send me a book for me to review and rate, like your own book or other book, just always send me an email or just send it to me. I have 2 wish lists down below if you're Canadian or international. So yeah, it's no pressure at all. I'm just saying that's also an option. And yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books. What do you think of these books? Let me know what should I read as well. What should I add to this list? Obviously I want to come to this respectfully. I'm not Chinese, but I have appreciation for Chinese culture and Chinese language and like everything that I've learned so far. Actually, a lot of Chinese medicine has helped me with chronic pain and like insomnia as well. So I'm just like very appreciative and I do want to learn more. And as you guys know, I'm like partially Middle Eastern. I just love to learn more about the East. And as a Westerner, obviously, as someone who has lived her whole life in Canada. So yeah, let me know what should I read next. Have you read any of these books? Are there books that are your favorite that are from Chinese authors or that are set about Chinese history or Chinese socio-political climate? let me know. I would love to read them. And obviously in the future and in future videos, I will be talking more at length on my projects and my writing projects when they come about, the specific topic that I'm researching. Right now, I'm still in the midst of writing Vampire and a few other novels, so I need to finish those novels before I touch this story, but I need to collect my research. I need to do my readings. Usually I do like 1 or 2 years of reading and researching and thinking about a story before I actually start it, and that's just the way that I've been lately operating under. So yeah, that's that. At some point I do need some beta readers, so look out for that. I'm either gonna post it on Instagram on my stories, or when I make my future videos I will let you guys know if I need beta readers. I'm potentially gonna need some beta readers for my vampire book, so if you guys like that, please keep an eye out on Instagram. I'm hoping to finish this book by the end of either this month or next month, so I will let you know. And then I think potentially that book I'm going to self-publish. So long time coming. I have not self-published in 2 years since I self-published my poetry book. It's coming, guys. I'm working, I'm writing again, I'm doing a lot, but it's worth it, and this is what I want to do, right? As always, thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next bookish or writing video. Bye!